Welcome into the Orange Crush podcast. Rachel Vigil, Cody, Roark. How are you, my friend? It is Friday. The Broncos play the Chargers in 2 days. Can they be the first team that's going to stop them from going 3-0 since 2002? I sure hope so.
That's the hope, right? And, Friday vibes, I always feel like Friday's practices are just a little wonky because, as we all know, this year, John has a new approach to Friday practices where when we come out to practice, we come out there, there's no O lineman, there's no D lineman. We're all sitting there like, what's happening? But he sends them in for extra treatment, recovery, and then when we leave, they all come back. It's unorthodox, but very interesting nonetheless. But Fridays are typically like the boring days of practice. There was not much going on here for them on Friday. But, yes, big game here on Sunday, which I found interesting. Sean didn't jump at the notion of telling us that it's a must-win. But as we've talked to players this week, we know that he has told them this is a must-win game. So Sean's funny.
Yeah, we definitely know Sean Payton likes to, not make things quite as dramatic as I feel like other, conversations tend to happen. Like, in my eyes, this is a must-win game. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, stakes are high because, Rachel, we know you got a Monday night game against the Cincinnati Bengals. Even without Joe Burrow, Jake Browning's been in that system with Zach Taylor. He knows how to operate that offense. They have all their weapons. They got a lot of weapons all across the board offensively. And then you play Philadelphia, who just looks like a machine right now that you can't stop on short yardage situations. Yep. They have a very, very good defense. So it's you want to be able to get this win because not only is this going to be big for conference standing, but you jump up to first place in the AFC West with a win on Sunday with the head-to-head against the Chargers. And that's huge. That is so huge. So, yes, this is a must-win.
I'm totally with you. I agree. One, not only just because of everything having to do with the AFC West, but if you go down 1-2 in the season and all of a sudden things are starting to kind of unravel a little bit in the locker room, like things can get a little testy there, right? I don't want any of that. I just want a solid win where the offense looks good, the defense is back to its normal self, and we're not having to talk about, are they not as good as we thought that they are? Is Bo not going to be that guy? Like, I don't want any of those conversations. I just want it to be a nice, simple win for this Denver Broncos team. Listen, if it comes down to a field goal, I'm even okay with that. If that's just how it's going to be, I'm perfectly fine with that. But I know that this is going to be a very, very tough test. On which side of the ball for the Chargers are you more concerned about, the defense or the offense?
Ooh, that's tough. I would say the Chargers offensively just because we're fresh off of what happened last week against the Colts. Now, obviously, we spoke with Vance Joseph on Thursday. We got to hear him talk, and he said there were a lot of things that they can go back and correct. So you're hoping, right? You hear the coaches say that. You're hoping that you can actually go back and make those corrections. But this is the toughest test that Denver has faced all year long. So far, granted, we're 3 weeks in. Yep. Last week was tough because all the playmakers Indy had. But this week, there are tons of playmakers here for the Chargers. But they're facing, in my opinion, the best quarterback right now on their schedule. And right now, Justin Herbert's playing at an MVP level. So I'm a little more concerned right now about Herbert and the Chargers offense. Where are you at? Are you leaning offense or are you leaning with that Chargers defense that is stingy?
Yeah, I still just got the vibe in the locker room that the Broncos defense kind of overlooked Daniel Jones in the Colts. So I feel like they're going to be back in shape. There's so much talk about the Chargers right now, right? Like they are the hot hand of the NFL. Everybody is like, wait a second, this team is the real deal. I just feel like things are going to get back on track for the defense. So ultimately that makes me, a little more concerned about the Broncos offense going up against the Chargers defense. And Bo just has to play really, really smart football this week. And I think that's kind of we'll get into our keys to the game later, but that's probably my top one is Bo just needs to play really smart.
Yeah, that's going to be big, especially against this defense. Jesse Minter has done a tremendous job as their DC, and they got a lot of young pieces that they've kind of developed. Like you look at corner, they don't necessarily have star names at corner, the way that we used to see kind of like the Chargers. Their star player, though, Derwin James, he's their chess piece, move-around guy. They play a lot of nickel. They play a lot of dime. Those are their two primary personnel packages from a 50 to 30% standpoint, 50 kind of being that nickel, 30% being the dime there. So he is their Swiss Army knife of a weapon, and I imagine he's going to roll him down in the box a little bit to try to take away the run game. But, yeah, that's going to fall into our keys, though. It's just a tough test. And for this Chargers team, this really is their first home game, though on the road in, I believe, Brazil. I think they were the designated home team.
Correct.
If I'm not mistaken. It was either that, but they haven't been at home. They haven't played at SoFi just yet. Now, granted, there are two teams that play at SoFi, and we all know Broncos country travels well to Los Angeles. The flights are pretty cheap from Denver to there. So hopefully Broncos country turns this into a little bit of a quasi home game for them rather than the Chargers.
Okay, I feel like everybody's been talking about this. Are you over this storyline when it comes to SoFi and like Broncos country and all of these things? Or do you eat it up a little bit because we cover the Broncos?
I feel like you got to eat it up a little bit. I mean, I will say that from a fan base perspective, like before a game happens, usually like the day or 2 days before the game happens, there's usually these Broncos get-togethers, with fans that are going to the game, and Damani Leach, and you get Broncos front office people appearing from time to time. Steve Atwater will end up there. Yep. Miles, the mascot. So I think that you have this inclusive nature to how the Broncos travel. I mean, they always say Broncos country is worldwide, essentially there. So I think it's good to be able to have that. But once again, I think LA is an interesting spot, and just because you have two teams there. And in all fairness, most of the time, it's never a full capacity crowd or a majority crowd for either the Rams or the Chargers. It's usually a visiting team, which I always find to be weird with that location specifically. And I think that's because they have two teams playing there.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful stadium nonetheless. I've heard only good things about it.
It's incredible.
I was going to say, I hope the Broncos take a few little nuggets from their time at SoFi to get ready for their stadium here in Denver. But yeah, I mean, I just feel like it's kind of an overplayed story. I'm like, okay, I get it. Like, yes, everybody travels to LA. So yeah, I love that for Broncos country. And I hope it is loud for them. And, everybody's really excited. But the more and more this Chargers team wins, the more and more that fan base in LA is also going to get behind them and keep supporting them. And Justin Herbert, let's be real, he is a NFL known wide guy that everybody is starting to get behind.
Well, yeah, now that he's dating Madison Beer, apparently it's expanding his profile even more, which Justin is like the most kind of low-key, down-to-earth guy that I've ever met. I had a chance to sit down with him in Los Angeles a few years ago and interview him. Just a nice guy. I watched him in high school. When he was in high school, I was coaching at the time, but I watched him play at Sheldon High School in Oregon, and I just always kind of knew he was a talented player. And then his younger brother, Patrick, was kind of coming up, a few years behind him after the fact. But no, I really enjoyed getting to know Justin. But obviously now that he is a Charger, for me, it's like, all right, on days where he doesn't face off against the Broncos, like I think Justin's a great guy. But on game days when Denver's facing him, you want the Broncos to get after him. I'm an Oregon Ducks guy. So for me, I am a Duck at heart, Duck biased, you name it, SCO Ducks. And there's a nice pipeline there because you got Herbert and you got Bo Nix, Troy Franklin. I mean, Denver's kind of becoming an Oregon Ducks destination as well.
So were you all in on Bo then?
I was. And that's the awesome thing about it is that people can go back and track down receipts. It was even during the, when Deion went to CU and everyone's talking about Deion and, they have that game against TCU. Then they play CSU. And I'm telling people, I'm like, hey, it's so awesome that CU is off to a hot start, but they're going to run into a buzzsaw that is the Oregon Ducks. And I was saying it, and I said, Bo Nix is going to light them up. And sure enough, the Broncos, the Ducks, they came out there and they lit them up. I mean, a pair of Broncos. You had obviously Bo Nix and Troy Franklin there connecting in that game, but it was efficient. It was dominant. And so I've always been a Ducks fan. And I kind of at that point hitched my wagon thinking, back in 2023, I was like, man, Bo Nix looks like the perfect type of player for Sean Payton. I tweeted it well before even mock drafts started coming out. It was cool to see it kind of come to fruition.
Okay, so now Oregon, Bo, then. I feel like I can talk to you about this. You know exactly what he did well at Oregon. Do you see those same sort of qualities here with the Broncos now?
Well, so it's interesting. Sean mentioned he had turf toe, right? Like in his last year at Oregon. If you go back the year prior, he ran I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it was over 400, 500 yards rushing the year prior in 2023. And I think he had 14 rushing touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken. I got to go back and check that. But he was a dual threat dynamic guy. He didn't do much of that because he had the turf toe, issue all throughout his last year at Oregon. So he stayed and he won within the pocket a little bit. I think, especially with Troy, we are seeing some of these concepts kind of mesh. I think we've seen the introduction of more RPOs here for Sean Payton. Yeah. And now as I've gone through 2 weeks of film and you're watching, you're like, okay, now you're seeing things that Bo was comfortable with at Oregon that he was doing with Troy. And now that's a little bit of a sprinkle that's been added into this offense. But it can't just be encompassing between Bo and Troy. It has to be inclusive to everybody. And they're working on that right now. But I think you see that design. I wanted to ask you this, Rachel, because everyone brings this up. Should the Broncos use Bo with his legs more? I think it needs to be situationally. I don't like it being like every game we're going to figure out how to manufacture Bo some carries here, because I just don't want him to absorb extra contact that's unnecessary relative to his position.
No, and that's exactly where I stand. I don't want Bo Nix to be Lamar Jackson. It's amazing what Lamar is able to do, don't get me wrong, but the opportunity and the chance of him possibly getting hurt is so much greater if he is on the run. I liked actually how Bo did in the Indy game, right?
Yeah.
He looked calm. He looked poised in the pocket. Like, the offensive line did a great job of protecting him against Indy, in my personal opinion. So overall, I thought, okay, looks good. He's being very poised, like I said. And then we saw that one run in the second half where I was like, Bo saw the opportunity and he went for it. And he has the speed, he knows he has the footwork, and he went for it. And I think he got the first down on it, correct?
Yeah. It was like an 18-yard scramble on, like, I think it was 3rd and 10 or something like that. So,
and I'm like, that's when I'm okay with Bo running. See the opportunity, but be smart. I don't want designed Bo Nix plays. I want that for JK Dobbins. I want that for RJ Harvey. Those guys get paid to do that. I do not want that for my quarterback. So I'm done on the same page.
100%. And look, I think as well, if your quarterback is leading your team in rushing kind of the way that Bo did for over a third of the games last year, it's problematic. It means that things aren't working for you offensively, even though the Bo can be an absolute weapon there with his legs. Look, speaking of that, obviously the Broncos, Dre Greenlaw still dealing with the quad injury here. Evan Engram dealing with the back injury. Both of these players will not make it to Sunday's game here against the Los Angeles Chargers. Rachel and I, we're going to break down what that means and who can step up in their absence here on today's Orange Crush podcast.
Yo, I can guard pro in these.
I can guard you and route you up.
You sure about that?
Fellas looking for a quarterback?
The goal!
You're right, Billy. These do bring out my eyes.
Every shoe for every athlete.
Dix is the GOAT.
All eyes on Sunday as the Broncos will take on the Chargers. Cody, I'm curious. Let's get into a few. Actually, before we get into keys to the game, I want to talk about some players we think that could really light up the scoreboard, light up the stat sheet maybe a little bit. Who's your guy?
Ooh, that's an interesting one. Just because, without having Evan Engram in this game, I feel like it would be bold to bring up a tight end. I'm going to go with Troy Franklin here once again. I'm going to stick with Troy for the second consecutive week here, and not because he caught 8 passes last week for 89 yards and a tutty. I think the number one thing with Troy is he excels against cover 3, and the Chargers, they run primarily cover 3. And so we've seen Troy's numbers have success against that type of coverage because he knows where to sit against zone, and he has those hot spots there, and he and Bo seemingly have a really good connection when they get that type of coverage. So I'm seeing if that's going to continue here this week. Where are you leaning?
Okay, so this is going to go against like everything we believe in when it comes to journalism.
Okay.
I think Marvin Mims is going to have a fantastic game. And you're going to say, Rachel, why do you think that? I honestly can't tell you. It's just something in my gut that is telling me that Marvin Mims is about to just absolutely go off. Like I said, I have no inkling from talking to anybody in the locker room, from what Sean has said this week. I just feel something in my soul that is telling me Marvin Mims is going to have another good game, and maybe we're going to see another sign language touchdown. So that's all I got for you.
I like that. And look, I was a little disappointed last week that the Broncos and Sean didn't find a way to get Marvin more involved. I mean, Marvin opens up the opening drive, catches a touchdown, beats coverage. It's like, all right, hey, there you go. Marvin, touchdown. The Broncos offense is clicking. And then he only saw one more target the rest of the game. You have to find a way, in my opinion, if you're Sean, I don't know what it is. And certainly, like, these guys will all be on the field for various plays. They may not be the primary target, or, someone may cover them, right? That all factors into it. But I would like to see more than 2 targets for Marvin. We know what Marvin can do, especially after what he did in the last 6 games of last year.
Yep.
Feed Marvin Mims, and I guarantee you everything else is going to open up. I agree with you. I like that pick.
I do too. Okay, so I know you used to be a coach. So I'm going to ask you, Sean Payton, he's got his first 3 to 6 plays always dialed up, right? When you look at this Chargers team, you're having to do 3 plays. What are you going? Run, pass, run, pass, run. dial it up for me. I know it's very situational, but just Sean always has those like first couple of plays, like this is exactly how it's going to go.
Yeah, the game script is so important, and sometimes it can change based on, what happens is the first play comes out, the offense is coming out, the coaches up in the box are saying, okay, they're in this personnel.
Yep.
And so I think they have like a kind of a structure, a hierarchy of saying, okay, hey, if they're a nickel, this is what we want to start off with. If they're in dime, we want to do this. If they're in base, okay, we're going to run this play. So they're going to have that structure available on Sean's play call sheet here. For me, I think you're going to come out kind of the same as what you did last week. Run, run, run. Sean said to open up the game against the Colts, he wanted to run it 3 straight times to get a first down. They got a first down on that first carry by JK Dobbins. Come out and run the football from the start here against this Chargers team, because Rachel, if you look at the defensive stats through 2 weeks, everyone's like, a lot of teams haven't been able to run the Chargers because in 2 weeks, the teams that they were playing were trailing. You can't stick with the run game when you're trailing against a team like LA. So find a way to come out here, establish that from the onset. And I think things can open up. I think you'll see run, play action on the next play, and then hopefully a touchdown. Hopefully you're in the end zone at that point. Hopefully it's a couple plays, and then the Broncos find themselves in scoring position. That's how I would do it personally. But then again, Derwin James is going to be the guy we have to keep an eye on.
Totally. Okay, well, we'll see. We'll report back on Monday and say what ends up happening, or on Tuesday, I guess I should say. JK Dobbins, though. Obviously, returning back to the Chargers, he talked to the media on Thursday, and he said, the Chargers did want me back, but it was business. They had to do what they had to do. I had to do what I had to do. Okay, obviously he's saying that.
Do you believe that?
I really struggle, but I'm going to take his word for it because it did come out of it. I mean, you can't go on record and say something and it could come back and be like, no, we didn't want you back.
Yeah.
But if they really wanted him back, they would have done everything possible to make sure that he returned. Obviously, they let him go for a reason. So a little iffy, but I would have a massive chip on my shoulder saying, you know what, Los Angeles, I'm about to run down your throats. And I do hope that Sean, we know he likes to pass. We know he likes his quarterback, but let's actually see this run. Let's allow angry JK Dobbins to go out there and hopefully turn some magic onto the field.
Well, I would say this as well. I mean, JK, for a large portion, he was so valuable to what the Chargers' run game operation was like last year. We saw it in week 1. We saw it in week 2. We even saw it when the Broncos played the Chargers initially, I think, in that week 6 matchup. Yes. JK had 95 yards. He had a really big first half of the Broncos defense buckled down in the second half after being down 20-0 at halftime. We all remember that game here. Once JK went down with an injury at a crucial juncture of the season last year for the Chargers, their run game production completely fell off. And that's interesting because obviously, you factor in they had injuries on their offensive line. They got some injuries on their offensive line this year. They had to obviously move Joe out to, where Rashawn Slater was because he suffered a season-ending injury in training camp. So, for me, it was weird to see them go out on paper and make the additions of Najee Harris, draft Omarion Hampton, and them not really have success running the football. Part of me is thinking, okay, hey, maybe JK this is a game for him to go out there and say, hey, I was the accelerator to what you needed, and you guys were okay with letting me go. This one's on you.
No, I honestly hope that there is that little bit of extra chip, and he says, let's absolutely go. Trust me with the ball, and let's see what we're able to do. It's going to be interesting. The run game is definitely one of those things I'm going to be paying attention to a lot. Let's talk injuries, though, because Evan Engram and Dre Greenlaw obviously out, did not practice at all this week. Dre was on the sideline, or the side field, but we didn't see Evan Engram at all out there because of this back injury. Sean Payton telling us on Friday that he, in fact, did deal with it in the game up against the Colts. So now at the tight end position, do we see a ton of tight end involvement, or do you think they're mostly just going to be there for pass blocking?
I think you'll see some involvement this week, probably a little bit more so than what we saw last week between Troutman and Lucas Kroll. I think you have to, because if you're the Chargers and your game plan is saying, okay, hey, Evan Engram is not in this game, and they haven't gotten the usage to where they need to just yet with Evan. Even Sean Payton said that it's just kind of work in progress. He's going to be a big part of what they want to do. I look at this game as if you're Jesse Minter and you're trying to scheme together, it's like, okay, hey, there's no Evan Engram. All right, well, they got Adam Troutman. They got Lucas Kroll. They don't even do much. They bring them into pass block. This is where I think you can kind of get that run game going a little bit, and then you can kind of lull those linebackers to sleep, maybe hit a couple of crossing patterns with Troutman, obviously with Lucas Kroll, but Nate Adkins is set to make his debut, and Sean has talked about how important of a player that, his role is for him, where I think he's going to play that more so traditional fullback. So this is a week that we could see a ton of 12 and 13 personnel. For those of you at home that don't understand what that is, 12 personnel means 1 running back, 2 tight ends, 13 personnel, 1 running back, 3 tight ends. And it's always the first number is always the running back. The second number is the tight end. So I know there are a lot of people that have asked about like the glossary of terms there in my film reviews, but that's something to keep an eye on here.
No, and I think you should, honestly. You should make that a series. I know there's so many people, one, that just aren't fully involved in football, right? Like, I can even speak for myself. Up until 3-4 years ago, like, I didn't even know the terminology. So I love that you explain that for people. So keep doing that. I think it would be very beneficial for so many people. But
I try.
I love it. I love that you do your film breakdowns too. It's so beneficial because you've actually been in those positions to be able to see what you're looking at. It was one of the reasons I was so excited to do this podcast. Your football knowledge is just so different than so many of the other media members that have never played the game or have never been in those positions. So I was so excited when I was like, heck yeah, Cody and I, we can talk weddings, we can talk dogs, and we can talk football. And I love it.
No, we can't. And here's the thing too. It's the thing I love about football is that even though like I have a ton of experience in it as a player and as a coach, there's still so much that you can learn from the game, even if you're not like, if you haven't, or even if you have done it. Like the game, there's so many things that change every single year. I mean, you look at the players we cover, I mean, certain positions change every year coming into the draft. So how you evaluate them kind of changes as well. How you can use them changes. So I think that, you know, if you always want to learn football, you can always learn something. You'll never stop learning because there's just so much of this game that you have to kind of tweak and evolve. And I think that's why we've seen coaches, and Sean's been innovative as well. Sean's evolved, but like you see coaches like Andy Reid and all these other coaches that have been doing it for a long time. They're still kicking. They're still having success because they're evolving as the game evolves. The guys who don't evolve, the game passes them by. Sure. And then you start to see some issues where it's like the wins aren't piling up the way that they used to. So it's always good to learn.
Listen, this is like all of us with AI. Get on board, otherwise it's going to take over. Actually, it's really funny that we talk about this. I just had a girlfriend the other day text me about turf toe because of Joe Burrow, right? Big Joe Burrow fan. She's like all in on him. And she's like, is it like carpet burn? And I was like, oh my gosh, no. But like, it's a terrible name. Like, we need to come up with a different name for turf toe.
It's weird how they call it, because I mean realistically you could just say you like have a sprain or a tear in a toe ligament, right? Like in turf toe, I thought Travis and Jason Kelsey actually answered a listener's question this week on their podcast. Jason pulled his foot up on camera and was talking about, like, he was showing his toe and he was showing people where that ligament is. For Joe to rupture that ligament, that's brutal. That is a painful injury. I've had I've had a strain. I've sprained. I've had turf toe, like a minor, like a grade 1 before. And that was painful. You have to stay off your feet, ice, do all this stuff for a while. Just be very careful with like how you go about your business. I can't imagine a grade 2 or a grade 3. Grade 3 is a complete tear, and that's painful. And that actually, for some players, has kind of been a career ender for some. So interesting. But then again, medical technology is evolving. Hopefully Joe Burrow can go on to play a long career in the National Football League, but we'll have to wait and see.
NFL's got all the best money too. All the best money, all the best doctors, that's for sure. So I'm sure Joe Burrow will be fine. Fingers crossed for him. Absolutely. Okay, our keys to the game. We'll go back and forth 1v1.
Perfect. Yes, I love it.
Me first. What's your first key?
First key, I think, is going to be, I'm going to stay on the defensive side of the ball here for the Broncos. It's avoid those explosive plays on first down. First down efficiency is paramount here against Justin Herbert, because you want the Chargers essentially to have to deal with a little bit of a longer field on second or third down. If you're giving up 8 yards on first down, okay, well, now they only have 2 yards to work with on second, and then your chances of getting a stop or sustaining a drive defensively, it decreases. We all saw that last week. We were just praying for them to stop the bleeding somewhere in that game, and unfortunately they were not able to do that. So avoid the big plays on first down. And a big key statistic I think fans need to pay attention to, okay, I'm going to use terminology once again. The Chargers have had 7 plays of 20-plus yards so far through 2 weeks of play. 4 of those 7 explosive plays have come out of 11 personnel, which means 1 running back, 1 tight end, 3 wide receivers. So if you see that, if you see 1 running back, you see 1 tight end, and you see it's a passing down, that's where they may try to take a couple of shots, whether it be on first down or even second down. They're not afraid to do it. So first down efficiency is going to be huge this week. What is your key to victory?
So I just realized we're probably going to have a lot of similarities, because this was going to be my second key to the game. So just to go, I'm going to like piggyback off of it in a sense a little bit, is don't let the run get going this week against this Broncos team. they haven't been able to figure it out for 2 weeks necessarily. Let's not have it happen against the Broncos. Now, of course, that means entirely the defense just has to be relatively good all the way around. But let's just not allow that to get going. And, of course, yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens there with the passing game with Justin Herbert. He's a scary man. I'm a little nervous. Okay, so we'll do my second key since I didn't really get to piggyback too much. But Bo Nix is 3-6 when he throws an interception. Bo has to have a clean game. The pocket has to be good for him. He can't overthink it. And Sean has to be good on play calling. So it's just going to be no Bo Nix interception this weekend. And that is a very, very tall task, especially against this Chargers defense.
Yeah, you got to protect the football. Can't lose the turnover battle against a team like the Chargers. It's not like week one where you lose the turnover battle and you somehow win the game. Week one, teams that won the turnover battle were 8-1 in week one. The Broncos were the one exception there. They were it would have been 9-0 if the Tennessee Titans would have found a way to win that game there. So protect the football. I agree, Rachel. It's paramount. And while the offense did enough last week, I think one of the bigger keys here is you can't have that costly mistake come at an inopportune time, right? Let's say you're up by 3 scores and it's late, and let's say a ball gets picked. Okay, it's not as impactful, so to speak. But when you have a 1-score game, you're driving downfield, and all of a sudden there's a turnover, there's a negative play. Yep. Momentum is a very real thing in the NFL, and I think some people forget that. I don't know did you watch Thursday Night Football? Tua Tagovailoa was driving the Dolphins down the field late in that game, and then he was just kind of getting the ball out of his hands quickly. And then he throws just a costly pick at the worst time. You can't have that situation happen.
And it was so easy to read.
Yes.
For an experienced quarterback like Tua, I expected so much better, but I think he was just so in the zone of okay, we are moving it down. And my heart broke for him actually in that moment, because I even saw it and I was like, oh no.
My wife, when we were watching it, she said, "Oh no, that sucks. I feel so bad for him."
Yeah.
I
feel like
she said that's just a terrible way to go.
Where I was like, oh crap. I feel bad for Tua. I don't know what's going down there. I don't know.
I just don't think that he's just. I don't think he can be a long-term guy in the league. Especially some of the deficiencies he has. I think with just the deep ball on his arm, I think he's an excellent quick passer. But I think in today's game there is value to be had there. But if you can't stretch the ball downfield consistently, I think that can be a problem here. The Broncos found themselves in that position during the carousel years of trying to find a quarterback. They got a guy who I think can push the ball anywhere on the field, as we've seen with Bo. It's just about corralling and kind of reeling in that consistency. But yeah, tough to be a Miami Dolphins fan.
Oh, so true. I'm glad we're out of those glory days, right? I'm like, okay, sounds good. All right, your third key to the game. Hit me with it.
Well, I think you have to lean on the run game here. This is an opportunity for the Broncos with JK, and not only just JK. You look where everyone's talking about the JK revenge game, us included, but get RJ Harvey involved a little bit more. I feel like this is the perfect game here for the Broncos to kind of unleash a two-headed attack here. You got the flash and the pizzazz here with JK Dobbins, but then you got the smash concept that, with the explosive element to touch there with RJ that I think that we need to see. We saw it in week one on that fourth quarter. Use this throughout the entire game. See if you can get RJ some good looks as well when JK's also getting in the mix as well. That's my third key here. Just got to have an efficient run game here. But you can't trail early. If you trail early by, let's say it's 10-0, or you trail by 2 possessions, the run game is going to disappear, which makes the game plan a lot more difficult for Sean.
Let's not even talk about that. Feed the two-headed monster, but keep it going. Even if it's not successful on the first 2 drives or whatever it's going to be, just keep feeding them, let them get into a bit of a rhythm and continue to go. But it also comes down to Sean Payton going with it for the play calls, right? We talked about Bo's interception a ton. I know I feel like I preached on it on my social media. We've talked about it here on the podcast. The interception he had really should have been a run. Why are we throwing it even in this position? It was 3 yards. Go for it. Just right. 3 yards, 4 yards, 3.
Yeah, no, it was 3rd and 3.
Yeah, thank you. I'm I always check myself. I'm wait a second. Am I correct on that stat?
It was the short yardage situation regardless. And we talked about it. Worst case, you get 2 yards. Okay, kick the field goal.
Great. Yeah. Why are we throwing the ball in this situation? So I'm really, really looking forward to hopefully seeing a better play called game from Sean, because I'm also sick of all the talk about should they hand it off? Should Sean no longer be doing play calls? Trust me. I understand somewhat of the frustration, but he's also an offensive genius when it comes to this game. He's in the league for how long now? Let's all take a big deep breath. but let's have a nice, clean, easy win for the Broncos on Sunday. And I know no win is actually easy in the NFL, but boy, I'm hoping that we're able to have a calm win at least.
We'll certainly take an easy win. If an easy win happens, we'll take it. We'll celebrate it. And with that said, Broncos country, enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the game. Obviously, Rachel and I will be with you here on Monday to recap all of the action here on the Orange Crush podcast.